Hey, what's up? I am Tony making food Matta. This is a little Tony talk, a modified view in the culinary industry. So today we're going to talk a little bit about love and relationships in the culinary industry or the restaurant life. So the restaurant industry kind of gets a stipulation, a stigma of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And it's kind of true, a little bit, kind of, sort of, to a certain extent. So back on one of the other podcasts that I have did, a couple months ago, it was like talking about bonds that you make in the kitchen. And I talked about this girl, Lisa, that I loved at that time in my life. And the bonds that I made with her would never have happened if it wasn't for the restaurant. And it was a beautiful thing, a bond that I made with one of my coworkers that, as mentioned in the other podcast, I would have never, ever have hung out with that guy or whatever, because we were in two totally different cliques, and the kitchen brought us together, and we ended up having a beautiful, beautiful thing. So, relationships, bonds, waitresses, cooks, waitresses, barbacks, waitresses, bartenders, girl, boy, girls, whatever. We are in these tight areas for long periods of time that eventually you're going to end up liking somebody, and I've had three serious relationships in my life, and all of them have came from the bar or a restaurant or the culinary industry or something that has to do with food. And so first one was, I'm a dishwasher. I got promoted to line cook. She was a hostess. We'd flirt back and forth. Hey, what are you doing after work? Do you want to hang out? This, that, and the other. Johnny's throwing a party. Let's go to the bonfire down in the woods. Let's hang out at the end of my street, at the dead end. Let's smoke some cigarettes. Those things happen, and you hang out, and then eventually you have feelings for somebody, and then, you end up dating them. Which was, those things happen. Second serious relationship that I've ever been in was the same thing. I was a barback. I was a barback at the bar. I noticed that there was this regular that always came up on Fridays. She was very attractive, and I was just like, man, like, this girl's very attractive, and she's flirting with me. And we ended up talking, and we ended up like hanging out, and going to other, hey, what are you doing after work? You want to hang out? Well, I don't get off till 3 o'clock. Yeah, I'll be up. So then you hang out after, and then those things happen, and then all of a sudden moved in with the girl moved in with me. That happened, and that was because of a restaurant, because she was a regular, and it just happened. The last serious relationship that I was ever in was somebody that I had gone to school with way back in the day. She worked with her a couple times, at a couple different times at a couple different restaurants, and it just so happened that in our time in our life, it just happened that we connected and we started dating, and that was stuff that happened over, a series of, of years that getting to know this person, and then honestly, like, man, I think I love this girl, you know? So, like, these are things that happen because of the restaurant or because of the culinary industry. Like, you get these bonds with these people. So, those are like, I've been in a lot of like relationships, but like, those are like serious relationships that would not have never happened if it wasn't for the bonds that you make within the kitchen or within the culinary industry. So, with that being said, let's go into why sometimes relationships do not work in the culinary or restaurant industry. So, sometimes people grow apart, or let's say you work together in the same restaurant and you're there and you're dating, and then that person gets a job at another restaurant and you're still at this restaurant. You don't see that person that often. Maybe she's on the night shift and you're on the day shift, and then that bond kind of fizzles out. And then maybe you guys are young and it just doesn't work out, and then that happens. Like, it happens. Maybe you did meet this girl and she was a regular at your restaurant or bar in my instance, and she actually had like a day job. So she understood that bar life, restaurant life. However, working in the bar that I worked in, there was a lot. My night shift that I worked was at like 4 to midnight, 4 to 2, 4 to 4 sometimes on those busy days. Come home, she has to get up for work at 6 a.m. Like, it's kind of doesn't really work out. Those are like two different ways that like people kind of float apart if you are in the restaurant industry and you have a relationship with somebody. So I usually gravitate towards bartenders, waitresses, people who are in the industry, because I have somebody to talk to about the day, what happened, and they get it. If you talk to somebody who has never worked in the service industry, they're going to look at you like you're crazy. They're not going to understand some of the lingo that you're saying. They're just not going to understand it. Now, I'm not saying that it's not possible, but I'm just saying in my life, in my relationships, that like I really only get along with bartenders or servers because they get it. They understand it. So that's how relationships, in my experience, I've seen how things have fallen apart for other people and for me. And then, sometimes chef life is chef life, and things happen. So that's a little bit about relationships that I've been in. And I know it's me putting it out there, but hey, I know you've probably been in the same shoes. At least somebody has. So let's talk about girlfriends and jealousy and stuff like that. So my experience, I refer a lot of these things back to Albert's and feelings that I had, because I spent 10 years of my life there. I've seen it all. I've seen a lot of stuff going on there. So like, things that would make me upset or things that I would observe is that if you have like a boyfriend, if you're a waitress or server, and if you have a boyfriend who is not in the service industry, like, they don't understand what is really going on, and they think that you are trying to sleep with every single customer. I've seen it 100 times. I swear, I've seen jealous boyfriends sitting at the bar, critiquing the girl. Why did you flirt with that person? What are you doing? Like, Like, that's just bad news. So if you are in a relationship and you do have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever, I would highly recommend them not sitting at your bar or coming up and seeing you all the time. I mean, I would pop in every once in a while when I dated girls that were bartenders, but I would pop in for a minute, have some lunch, and then I would leave. Look, I get it. You're hustling. You might be flirting with that guy over there to get some tips or whatever, or you're just giving good service, and that jealous boyfriend might think that you are flirting with this person, but you're really not. You're just giving good service. So, I would highly recommend not doing any of that, not hanging out at the bar, and it just looks bad. It looks bad. Your regulars see your boyfriend sitting at the end of the bar, your whole shift, and then maybe you have a regular, and you have that regular who tips you well, and then that regular sees your dirtbag boyfriend ask you for money for tips, and then you give them the money. I've seen it happen. That is just bad. That's just bad all around. Bad, bad, bad. So I would highly recommend not doing any of that. Other things that I've seen or experienced when I used to bar back a lot, I was in the friend zone. Me. Friend zone Tony. That was me. And I get it. That was cool. I get along with females great. But a lot of the guys that were dating some of these girls that weren't in the restaurant industry or just didn't get it or were just douchebags, they would think that I am, having relationships with these girls. And no, sorry, I'm in the friend zone. They put me in the friend zone. I would like that, but never happened, man. We're working together. We have a jive. We have this bond. We have a relationship. I'm in the friend zone. I'm not hooking up with her. You are. So quit being jealous. I mean, hey, it's just how I've seen it. Some of my experiences within my tenure at Albert's. I've seen a lot of stuff, and I've seen a lot of jealous dudes. I've seen a lot of douchebag dudes. I've seen a lot of jealous girls. Jealous girls getting jealous at the cook because they see the same thing. They see that, oh, you're flirting with so-and-so, this, that, and the other. And it's like, we just work together. It's just how it is. Yeah, relationships happen, and yes, it does happen. But, no, I'm in the friend zone, man. The friend zone. Never the end zone. Little old Tony is in the friend zone. So, as I mentioned, it's kind of hard to be in a relationship. It's kind of hard to be in a relationship with somebody that doesn't understand chef life or the restaurant life. So just kind of think about that. Another thing that I want to point to is if you do decide to cross that bridge to actually have a relationship with a server or bartender and you're a cook or you're a chef, I would highly recommend not giving any favoritisms to that cook if you're a cook and a cook or a bartender and a waitress and whatever. I would highly recommend not playing favoritism for that person that you might be dating. I would keep it professional because I've seen it happen a lot of times where the chef or a cook or somebody is dating a waitress or a bartender and give them special treatment. Now, I get it. You guys are in a romantic relationship, but at the end of the day, it's about the guest. So if I'm dating you and I'm gonna skip all these other tickets who've been waiting 20 minutes for their food to give you your food first because I'm dating you, that's just wrong. That's just wrong. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Follow the rules. That one guest has been waiting, serve them first. You're gonna ultimately affect the guest, and at the end of the day, us as chefs and culinarians and people in the restaurant industry, it's all about serving the guests. So don't skip a guest because you're dating the bartender or waitress. Just don't do it. Like another thing is like, don't fight. Like if you are going to be in a relationship, there's nothing worse, and it has made me feel uncomfortable because I've seen it happen a lot of times in some of the other restaurants that I've worked in. A cook dating a bartender, or a bartender dating a bartender, or a cook dating a cook, because as again you create these bonds, and then they're just getting in an argument in the middle of a rush or something because something happened last night, or that person seen you flirting with somebody else or something like that. Like that is just bad, especially if you're in front of guests and you're the cook and you come out to get some soda or whatever, and you see your girlfriend who's the bartender and she is flirting with somebody, like, and you yell at her, like, why? Like, you're getting jealous over like stuff, and you should know all this. Like, don't do it. Just don't do it. It's just bad. You're gonna yell. You're gonna make her feel bad. It's gonna look bad for the restaurant. It's just gonna look bad all around. So I would highly recommend, if you are gonna date in the culinary industry within the restaurant, do not argue in front of guests or in front of other cooks or culinarians, because it's just going to ruin the flow. If you're a cook and if you're dating the pantry cook and you guys start arguing in the middle of the dinner rush, it is going to mess everything up. Leave that stuff behind. The kitchen, the restaurant, it's a means to escape the reality from the outside world. Come in, work this 5, 6, 7, 8, 14-hour shift. Don't think about anything else except for the food that you are putting out. Let everything else melt away. I've had a lot of problems in my life, and I've had some relationship problems too. Obviously, I'm single right now, but some of the things that helped me get through some of my breakups is, I'm sitting at home, I'm thinking about this girl, like, oh my God, I'm freaking out, I don't know. But I end up going into work, and then I just focus on work, focus on the food. And for those 5, 6 hours or those 3 hours of the dinner rush where I'm just zoning in and I don't think about her or how I messed up, because I messed up. That last relationship I was in, I blew that one. But I'm just saying, like, thinking about that, everything just melts away. It all melts away when you're working on the line. So that's another thing about relationships and, the culinary world, or being in there. And then, like, if you break up with the bartender or waitress, I would kind of, maybe, I wouldn't say recommend, but probably maybe go get another job. Or just be like, look, babe, like, it was fun. We had fun. This was cool. I get it. Like, we're not gelling anymore. I'm cool with it. Are you cool with it? Try to be professional about it. I've seen it work. I've seen it work a couple times. Or I've seen it not work. And I've seen bad breakups. And then that goes back into fighting in front of the customers. And it's just kind of bad. So those are like a couple of different rules, tips, some of my experiences that I've had, love and dating in the culinary industry. But it's hard. It is hard to be a chef and to find somebody that understands it. And, sometimes chef life is single life, and, it can be lonely, I guess. But for me, I look to my peers and I look to my culinary family and my family, but it's kind of rough being in a relationship. It's super hard. You know, as a chef, you work a lot of hours, and you have to find that one person. You have to find that one person that understands you. So, thought I found it. I didn't. But, you know, that's my view. So, once again, I am Tony Making Food Mata. That was a little Tony talk, a modified view on love and relationships in the culinary industry. So, thank you and have a good day.